Move that out the way a little bit.
We are so live at the moment. It's been a long time coming, but we are here, and we are making some things happen. So thank you for tuning in. If you are tuning in at the moment, checking us out, welcome to Change Your Mind, Change Your Thinking. I'm your host, Troy Skinner, and this is my co-host,
Antonio Dean.
Antonio Dean. He also goes by The Dosage. He's an entertainer. And he does modeling and stripping on the side. I'm just teasing. But someday. I'm pretty sure most of you understood that joke. So, like I said, it's been a long time coming.
Yes, sir.
I'm sitting next to somebody who I've been wanting to work with in every capacity. If you haven't already seen us on TikTok, in our first video that we dropped.
Comedy skit.
The comedy skit.
Showing a little bit of personality.
Yeah. That's always a cool thing. We are looking for people to be up in the chat, so I'm gonna have to go into figuring out where the chat is at. Let's go to go to the YouTube page and see what's going on over there.
Let's do that.
Well, it's already open.
It's
there you go. All right, we got one view. Yes. Don't know who you are. Why don't you put it in the chat who you are, so that way we know that we're not alone.
We'd love to engage with you.
Pretty soon we'll be up and running in a tremendous way. We have a lot that we want to offer. We are also on Instagram at the moment live. So if you want to catch us live on Instagram, you're definitely welcome to do that.
And that's at my Instagram at _dosage. I'll be dropping the YouTube link in the comments in a moment here.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, we have a couple of things that we want to talk about in regards to how our show works. The show is Change Your Mind, Change Your Thinking. It is a show based on how our show works. The show is it is a show based on helping people come to terms with maybe a thought process that they had thought they had, and we're going to give you some options on thinking differently. I, for a long time, wanted to do a talk show and get into conversating over the web space. Not just doing a talk show or a podcast show, but something live where we're going to have guests and we're going to have people call in and people talk about the different topics that we have going on.
Correct.
So you can email us anything, questions, show topics, very open to show topics, different things that you guys may want to talk about out there. We'll be doing this on a Tuesday and a Friday. Friday, we'll be going over basically whatever went through the week, whatever happened through the week, like the craziness in the world. Current events.
Fridays, I thought Fridays is current events. Tuesdays are topics. Right?
Tuesdays are topics, yeah.
Tuesdays topics, and Fridays
current events.
Pop culture.
Pop culture.
Pop culture.
Madness.
Yeah, all the madness, everything going on social media.
Absolutely.
Going on out in the crazy world.
Absolutely. So, basically, we started off the show. I'm going to be playing maybe an old classic or a song that fits me in regards to opening up the show. Oliver has chose to have a song close the show. So that's how we'll be doing it. Antonio, like I said, he's a rapper. So today he gave me something that's really hot. And I heard, I was like, oh, this is hot. Like, so, and you literally just made that.
This morning.
Boy, you talented, man. That's how I used to be on an NPC, man. I just go and just drop something real quick and just, people like, oh, that's hot.
They have those, it's just digital now.
I might have to get one. Because I miss hitting those pads.
Right.
I mean, these pads here are pretty cool, but I miss that for sure.
The 16?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was that was the Rodney Jerkins era and the Timberland era. We were those types of guys. We had to have those pads.
The timing had to be impeccable.
Yeah, we weren't copying and pasting.
That's what I do.
What are you working on? Fruit Loops? What's the software?
No, so I have Pro Tools and I also have something called Mixpad, which is basically like, that's about as simple as it gets out there, just for recording artists.
Okay. Well, we also are going to be looking for sponsors. So if you're a sponsor out there and you're watching us and you are interested in having your product advertised on our show. Our show is 2 hours
Showcased.
long. All right. And you want it showcased, we will definitely hype it up, pub it up, talk about it. I've already been hit by one company, I can't mention their name yet, but they want to see how this show goes before they actually.
Okay. Well, just know that you will be eloquently promoted, effectively, and efficiently. We will definitely help to increase your buy rates.
Absolutely. So, if you're a sponsor, hit us up. Let us know that you're interested. We'll pub up your stuff very easily. Okay. So, today's topic, we're going to go into our dissertation about today's topic. Today's topic is...
That would be, have you been used?
Have you been used? Now, I know I've been used.
I've been used quite a bit.
Used and abused. Rode hard and put up wet.
It's almost a rite of passage in the world.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a two-way street sometimes, right?
Indeed.
Right? You know, scratch your back, I'll scratch mine. That's the old saying.
No one makes it in the world alone.
Right? It takes an island, right?
So,
No one man is an island. It takes a village, right?
no such thing as a one-man army.
No such thing as a one-man army.
Fictional.
Right. But it becomes an issue, in my opinion, when you're being used and you know you're being used and or you're unconsciously being used and it's affecting your spirit or it's affecting you, your physical or your mental.
Well, I believe that that's something that's also a bit self-inflicted. It's not necessarily something that you're not in agreement with.
Yeah. I mean, listen, being used is one of the worst things that could ever happen. I didn't realize until I started doing some research how many articles were available and also how many studies have been done about the effects and ramifications of being used and what that does to a human being.
Concerning professional and self-help?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it is a topic that we are definitely going to discuss today. We're going to get really, really deep into it. And we're going to talk about it with you, the audience. We hope that you'll be able to call in. Now, oh, by the way, this is a disclaimer. It's our first show. It's a pilot. So be merciful. If obviously you saw that we started a little late, but just a bit. But we're up and running. And if we're not able to take calls, don't take it personal. But we're going to do our best to make sure that we're able to discuss. If not, in the chat, you can just type in the chat your opinion or your question, and we'll get to that.
Instagram and YouTube. Instagram, I will be monitoring the comments.
All right, so y'all heard him. He's monitoring the comments, all right? Make sure you like and subscribe this channel. We will have a lot of content, and we also have a Patreon, but we're not putting that up yet until we have the merchandise ready.
Correct.
And we know what the additional content is that we will. I think you said you had some, no.
You really got to watch this guy.
I tease him all the time. Hey, look, you know, being a good-looking man comes with his issues, so don't get it twisted.
Right.
All right, so dissertation. My thoughts on being used. Now, I've been used several times in my life. I'm not going to go into serious detail on who, when, where, and how, and why, but I know that what I've learned from those situations was that I was compliant with it. Some of us, especially me being empath, some of us are used to wanting attention in some regard. And so what happens is that people who are users will tend to latch on to people who are givers or people who are generous and loving in a sense. And so I had to take note with myself. I had to step back and realize, like, you know, why is this continuously happening, right? What does the old saying says? What is madness? What is, insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So I got to a point where I started realizing I had to be a good steward. Like the Bible says, be a good steward of what's given to you, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, financial. Those are things that I'm starting to, in my later life now, pay more attention to. Is this person a user? Or what is this person's MO? What is their objective? What are they in my life for? Because we all know that people are in your life for a season. But I think where people make their mistake is that they're not accountable in regards to the situation. So it's real easy for me to look back in my life for all the people who've used me and to say, yo, like they used me, man, and get, gruff and mad about it and be in a space. But I realized that for me, it's a thing of having to be in a space of, okay, so now what do I do to make the difference? If this is how it happened and this happened in this regard, how do I make a difference? All right. So that's just my perspective on that. What do you think?
I think we're in a very similar boat there. The way that I was raised, I've always been closer to the helm of anything that I have, I can easily get again. It's never really an issue to give to anyone. So I've kind of blurred the lines between being used and being useful to others,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've always felt just that any of the resources that I have, I could easily get again, and I understand that not everyone has that. Everyone has the capability. Let's not get that twisted. Anyone who can walk, talk, breathe, you have the capability to go and get what it is that you want, but everyone is not mentally suited to do so.
Right.
Everyone is not spiritually suited to do so. Everyone does not have the same drive, motivation, and determination. So I'm just now, over the last year after having met you, just now beginning to toe the line a bit to start identifying those who aren't quite genuine in receiving what it is that I offer.
Yeah.
So being used, being helpful, I'm figuring out how to untangle those two categories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of it is on how we're raised. First of all,
Right.
I come from a very loving, generous family. Shout out to Beverly Skinner, my mom. She will welcome people in with no shirt and give them shirts out of our closet. That's who she is, and she always makes sure people eat. That's her main thing. When you get out into the world, you start, especially with being in the entertainment industry. I was out in LA for 23 years, and so you're always looking for those relationships that are reciprocal. You're always looking for people to be on the same page as you in regards to being able to give back to you what you give to them. I think a lot of it has to come from knowing that you have to know yourself. The more, for me, you're going to hear this a lot on the show. Knowing yourself is crucial. Above and beyond is everything in regards to your life. If you don't know yourself, you're going to lose out on a lot of situations because you're not empowered to make proper decisions, right? It's kind of like people lying to you. If someone's lying to you, they're taking your opportunity away to make a concerted and a proper decision for yourself.
Correct.
And so for me, it's one of those things where it's like once you're at a space of knowing yourself more, which is a lifelong endeavor. It's not something that just happens, right then and there. Oh, you figure it out, you have your aha moment and you figure it out. No, it's a lifelong endeavor. You're constantly working towards that space of, okay, I'm comfortable with myself, I know myself, I appreciate and value myself. Because listen, obviously if someone's using you, they see the value in you that you don't see in yourself.
100%. And that includes more than just you. It's your time, your energy, your spirit.
Oh yeah.
All of those things.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the attention. Like we all crave attention. So when you look at it, this article that we pulled up, okay, and then going into the second hour, we will start taking calls, hopefully.
Calls or comments.
Or comments. Once again, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and
Like,
give
comment,
us a
share,
like.
subscribe.
Like, comment, share,
And
subscribe.
be on the lookout for the Patreon. Not quite sure what packages we will be offering.
But we will. We will. And obviously, we're going to plug ourselves at the end of the show. So
Yes, sir.
I'm looking forward to that. All right. But there was an article that I pulled up. I don't know if you're going to be able to, Antonio's going to be able to pull it up or not. You want to try?
See if we can share it with the viewers. We'll see.
Share it with the viewers.
What's that?
It's basically how to recognize when you're being used. And it's so wild because most of these things in this article, when I read it, I was just like, okay, these are things that I understand and these are things that I preach already and I know to be fact. And it talks about the signs of being used. Okay, like what are the signs to be used? All right. And it actually, when you do the search, you can search it for yourself and it comes up. You're the first, it's the first article to pop up on Google. Okay? So, some of the signs are if the person asks you for favors, money, or other items, right? Now, a lot of times we want to be people of charity, right? And be able to help people out. I don't think anybody, even starting when you were a child, and we talked about this yesterday, I don't think anybody wants to deprive someone of something. That's not natural. But we're quick to fight for those things that are ours. But that's beaten out of you when you're a child. So I gave the analogy of, you know how it is when you're a child at the playground and you're playing with your toy, something that maybe someone bought you for Christmas, and you're playing with it, and then another kid comes, snatches it out of your hand and pushes you down and goes off and plays with it. And it's a very crucial moment for a child in their development because how the parent responds to that situation makes all the difference in the world, right? Because children are learning and growing. And there's two things that could happen. Well, actually three, but there's two things mainly that can happen. Initially, who you are in your being, you want to go and push that kid down and take your toy back because it's your toy, and that's initially what you want to do. That's what was it that you said yesterday when we talked about that? It's what? It's the animal instinct.
It's supposed to be primal, but primal instinct comes with a pendulum of sorts. There's always a spectrum. There's always two ends to a spectrum. It all goes on a pendulum, and it comes from the same place. So, it being a primal instinct, there has to be at least one side and another. And I believe that there are people who are predispositioned to fight back, and then there are people who have absolutely no will to fight. Everyone cannot be a king. Everyone cannot be a fighter. Everyone cannot be great socially. Everyone can be great at whatever it is that they do. There are people who are great at being submissive, and there are people who are great at being domineering.
Yeah. So, with that being said, if that's your standing, right? That situation where that child would normally go back and push that kid down to get their toy back, and then the parent comes and goes, "No, Johnny, you don't do that. You share," right?
Right.
Or the parent says, "Go back," and like I said, for me, I'm the type, which is part of the reason why I don't have kids right now, but go push that kid back and get your toy. In fact, knock him out, get your toy.
Bring home another toy.
Bring home his toy. Yeah. Which some people would consider wrong. And look, we're open to controversy and any types of disagreement. We love that.
Arguments.
That's why
that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, and that's why we say change your mind, change your thinking. We're going to work really hard to get you on a hill that you probably wouldn't have died on.
Seriously.
We're going to convince you by logic, not emotion.
Or maybe we'll be convinced.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you on that. I like that.
I'm always open to being convinced.
Listen,
any argument can be made. I can always be convinced, but
bring me some.
Be
facts.
very well informed.
Yes, bring me some facts. Okay. Well, anyway, so that was what I mentioned yesterday when we were talking, and we were having a conversation about the show, and that was something that I had mentioned. So back to the signs. If the signs are obvious, okay, this was the other part of what we talked about. If you know you're obviously being used, okay, why are you allowing yourself to be used, right? And is it something that's beneficial that causes this person to want to be used? So you can have a mutual agreement on being used. That's what we talked about, right?
Well, there's the portion of people, which I believe there are many. I believe it's about 50-50. Some people enjoy being able to give to others and change their lives. They enjoy sharing their spirit. They enjoy sharing their time. It's just in them to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, even for myself, I could have said many times, really, that I was being used, but also I enjoy being able to share what it is that I have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I know that I'm going to get more. I have no issue with that. Now, is that in some ways I believe that can be selfish too, because being that way with someone could also be considered as enabling them. But both sides are being greedy. That other person wants what they want, and you also want what you want. They want what you have, and you want to give what you have.
That's a conundrum.
Some people just enjoy complaining about the situations that they've backed themselves into. And,
Okay, so come into that, because we'll get back to this in a second, but since you mentioned that, okay. I am known and have been known to have been a victim.
Okay.
Where I got caught into that cycle of, okay, people did me wrong, people used me, and you're living off of that.
It's energy.
It is energy. It's horrific and horrible energy that you're allowing yourself to be affected by.
Is it horrific or is it motivating?
Can be, but for me, because of the victimhood that I've been through, it was easier to move to that. Because what motivates me is doing the work, right? And so if there's someone who's sharing in the accolades of the work that we worked on, like with the show, like we enjoyed this show, we enjoyed talking to people, we enjoy each other's company. That's something different. But if I'm in the chair next to a person who is unknowingly to me using me, or knowingly is using me, then that's something different. So someone said, so what's better, getting revenge for getting used or forgiving because I want my lick back from 2010? I don't know if you're going directly to Antonio about that or.
Well, if I would I could offer some insight. I personally believe that revenge is not something, unless we're in like feudal Japan, living in some sort of anarchy.
Kurosawa.
Yeah, there's just not many ways to get revenge that are beneficial to your spirit. You want to be able to exemplify who and what it is that you are by actually prevailing. I'm not saying that in every situation necessarily you should turn the cheek, but I also believe as a martial artist that giving my physical energy, giving my mental and emotional energy is not always beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, I think the greatest thing that somebody can do is turn their back on you.
Yeah.
I've said it for many, many years. I've actually had it happen to me and realized, oh man, they used my own knowledge against me.
So my grandfather said the best thing you can do is get away from somebody.
So if the person is asking you for these things, favors, items, and money, and you give it, I always have a phrase where I say, no one's going to turn down $500,000.
Okay.
If you offering it and it's your last and you know you really need it, but they're asking and you're going to give it to them, they're going to take it. The majority of people are going to take that money from you.
People are takers.
They're
That's what
takers.
you told me.
Yeah, they're
about a year ago.
Yeah, they use up resources. Yeah. And they have their own wants, desires, needs, passions.
Yeah.
So with that being said, going back to that question, revenge, they have an old phrase that says revenge is sweet. That's temporary. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you because a lot of times people don't realize that emotional stress and psychological stress is damage to your health. Stress, period. We see that right now, like after the pandemic, how many people, so many suicides and heart problems and all these different things from the stress that was induced
Correct.
by the pandemic.
The stress and the fear.
And the fear, which
fear is very heavy on your spirit as well.
Yeah,
Very heavy on your physical health.
Absolutely. So, the person imposes on you without consideration for your availability or preferences. So they're given it, for instance, it says they may move in with you unexpectedly or want to borrow your car at a moment's notice.
Okay.
That I would think that normally happens with a lot of relationships.
Yeah, that's more of a relationship thing.
Like, if you're a chick or if you're a lady out there that has been with a bum.
Yeah, you let him borrow your car. You let him borrow your car. You know what I'm saying?
He was trash. Please text us or write us in or call in and let's talk about it. Hit us in the chat. Because I'd love to have that example for the women out there that's dealing with bums right now. You know the difference between someone that's down on their fortune and someone who's a bum.
Well, I think that goes both ways, though. It's not only women.
Right.
Let me tell you.
Okay. I mean, look.
Man, oh man. You know.
We're not going to exclude the ladies out of this. Some of you ladies are female bums.
You know, you using this man's car. You know what I'm saying? Getting a nice dinner.
Don't put no gas in it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and so to that, before we go off into another tangent, the person imposes on you without consideration for your your availability or preferences. How available have you made yourself to this person, and how much of that is your fault?
Right.
We all have a tendency to, and I don't know if this is a primal thing. I don't know if this is a U.S. cultural issue, but we have a huge tendency in modern days to point. It can't always only be the other person's fault. You must, in some way or another, be involved with that. Mm-hmm. If we were all victims, you know, we'd all be running around with sword and shield, or you know, wearing some sort of protective vest.
But I think it's headed back to that, though. It's headed back to that.
You think so?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen. I think that whenever you would see riots are a form of this.
It's the last straw.
It is.
That's the animal being backed into the corner.
Yeah. Or it's people taking advantage of the situation.
The warrior being surrounded.
Like when people were getting all that toilet paper, they were using the situation as a means to do something very, very dumb.
Something that they probably wanted to do anyway. Which is gluttony. You know, I believe that that's in everyone in some form or another.
Were you one of those people during the pandemic that just wanted to go out and get
You bought all the disinfectant wipes. You know what I'm saying? Why do you need disinfectant wipes if you're not going anywhere? You bought all of these cleaning products to stay inside.
If you're someone right now, male or female, and you're in a relationship where someone is using you in regards to taking advantage of your time, your car, just showing up on your spot, and just knowing that they know your heart, they know how you think, they know that you're not going to turn them away. It's raining.
Correct.
You're hurting yourself because the thing is this: there's a point where you have to put your foot down, and I think that's what that's saying.
Well, we want to break that down. You can't say that you're done and remain available. You have to identify what it is that you're contributing to that interaction to make it possible for the other person to do what they're doing. It's not 100% extortion on the other person's behalf.
And then that's illegal. So
yeah,
just
you
know
know.
that.
Well, you're in some fashion or another have made yourself too available, which is, again, like you said, you're definitely allowing that. So if you don't identify that within yourself, saying that you're done means absolutely nothing. You have to know what to take away from the other person, what to stop contributing so that you can actually escape.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this. When you were a kid and you were playing blocks, and there were all these blocks here, and it'd be the kid that's getting those blocks, right? They're both building, and you have something that needs to be done, but I decide mine is done. I still want to take those other blocks. That's horrible.
Is it horrible?
It's the way of the world, but it is horrible. It sucks.
People want what they want.
Yeah.
People typically, the saying is usually that adults will do what they want.
Yeah.
They will do what they will do.
I agree. I
Right?
agree.
Doesn't matter how much advice you give them. Doesn't matter if you give them the keys to the mansion, give them $1 million. They're still going to go and do exactly what it is that they had on their mind to begin with.
Mhm.
I don't believe that that's only for adults. I think that's an animal thing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there is a level of morality, but that's not this show. So, the next one is the person expects you to take care of their needs.
Why wouldn't they?
We really want some, like, let's say, okay, how much do you decide to give though before you decide it's enough? Do you disconnect physically or emotionally first, sirs? There's an old phrase. I love this phrase, man. When a woman's fed up, and I'm saying that because it's a woman that just it looks like it.
Yeah.
Lay the muse. That's a nice word. That's a nice title. I like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, when a woman's fed up, there ain't nothing you can do about it. And it's an old phrase, but I know that R. Kelly had made it.
That's
hot.
the hell hath no fury on a woman's scorn.
Absolutely. Men are the same way,
It's human.
right?
Emotional beings.
Yeah. It's the thing of when someone has given all they have and then they realize that they've been used. I think some of the best R&B songs were
Keith
made.
Sweat.
Oh man, you lie.
Straight up.
It's different for each individual to answer her question.
Well, everyone has a different threshold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I believe that that's based on how you were raised. Because if you were in an environment where you saw people take dirt, you tend to be that type of person. Unless you move out of that environment and experience the world as it is.
Which that goes back to which side of the primal spectrum are you on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are some of us who could watch someone else be abused for years and say, well, I guess that means it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are those children who say, get abused,
Mhm.
get dogged out, and hell, ain't no way. And
Yeah.
they move out
Yeah.
as quick as they can. They run away.
Yeah.
For some people, that's just unacceptable. So, that being said, are there any particular steps to take? Not necessarily. You disconnect based on what you have identified that you are contributing.
Mm.
Your threshold is your threshold. So I can't tell you, should you wait to get your hand cut off or, wait until you've already given them a kidney or any of those things. But you have to define your own parameters and your own limitations. No one else can do that for you.
Yeah, so I think what we need to add to that is what's keeping you in that relationship. Why is the extent of being used, why is that happening, right? So in essence, what I'm saying is this: if you're in a relationship and you feel unappreciated, and you feel that your needs are not being met, but you feel that you're giving so much and you know that you're giving so much, why are you in that relationship? Is there something that's still keeping you in there? Let's just keep it real. Is it sex? Is it opportunity? Or are you fearful of being alone?
Well, the answer to that, I believe, is more simple than most would like to believe. Sometimes we got to cut straight to it.
Cut to the quick.
If we're cutting the BS, I believe that most people just don't really know what love is. They're accepting whatever it is that they can get, and that they believe that their value is. Seriously.
Time to ring the bell.
Yeah, that's what it is. They don't know what love is.
That is a show in its own.
Yes, it is.
That goes back to the old. Listen, y'all. For the duration of how long this show is, for the years that we have it, I'm gonna be reciting old songs, pop and rock songs, R&B songs, country songs. Just believe that. That's foreigners. I want to know what love is. I want to know what love is because I think you're right about that. I think you hit. Let me ring the bell again because he just hit that. I think you're so right about that because a lot of people don't know what love is, and so a love for some people equates to giving and taking. It equates to that.
They're human, so they're searching. Right?
Uh-huh.
Same thing that when they put lab rats into different mazes or whatever scenarios that they put them in, but they're being experimented on to see what it is that they truly are seeking, right? So humans are typically the same in a lot of ways in that we're just trying to get it right, man. We're trying to figure it out. There are no right answers necessarily when it comes to dealing with emotions and dealing with each other. It's just something, you know, we've had philosophers, I mean, for eons, man.
Yeah.
So much different text over the years, and we're still in the absolute dark about how the heart works, about how the mind works, you know.
Which is why, I mean, with this, a lot of counseling that I've done and people who I've dealt with and people who I've given advice to and people who I've mentored through the years, the reason why I wanted this to be our first show is because it can really mess with people psychologically. I mean, I've had people who have shut down for 2 years because they were used by a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they couldn't move forward. They were stuck. I call it being in limbo or in a coma. And first off, big shout out to our live, man, in the Instagram.
Yes, doing well.
They lit. Appreciate you, Jazzy J, definitely showing love. Janessa Morgan, thanks for coming in. Muhammad Ali Boxing, yep, facts though, bro, that's right. And Layden Hughes. Oh yeah? Okay, all right. So we definitely appreciate you guys joining us. Hopefully we're speaking some stuff that is making sense. If you have any questions, please let us know. Layden Hughes, hopefully we answered what you had asked. Do you disconnect physically or emotionally first? Well, I think for some people, like I said, to sum it all up, it's subjective. Some people disconnect mentally or physically first, or emotionally, which is, you know, you see it a lot in midlife crisis. I know some of you are so far from that at this point, but you see parents of your friends or people who you've known, or maybe your own parents, who, they start feeling like that they lost a lot. They gave up so much and they didn't receive anything. You see it a lot, and it's really sad to see that people feel like they were used.
They compete with the youth.
Yeah.
Not just their own children. The children are typically the first targets because they're more immediate, but they're competing with youth in general. You know, I'm talking about the Bluetooths, you know what I'm saying, Crocs and mini jeans, all of these different things that they're going after, man.
So for instance, in regards to the person expects you to take care of their needs, if you go out to dinner with them, they may not offer to pay and simply expect you to pick up tab. Trash.
I think that's more entitlement, man.
It is entitlement.
Which, I suppose that contributes to using people.
Yeah, that's trash. And I mean, we can go. That's a show.
Yeah, that's damn near an entire show all in itself on entitlement. But I mean, to keep that succinct, people expect what it is that you offer.
Yeah. Plain
and simple.
Yeah.
If that is all that you're offering them, is all of what you have. You can't expect them to want less. Like you said, the $500,000.
Yeah.
That's what you're offering.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna take it.
Well, I can tell you right now, when it comes to something like that, a person expects you to take care of their needs, and using that as an example, if I ask you out, I pay. If you ask me out, you pay. That's how it works for me. I don't believe in, you know, if someone because you're comfortable. When people look out for me, there's this little thing that screams inside that goes, "Oh my God, I love you," you know. And so I'm always chasing to be that person, to bless that person that blesses me. And I think that's what people need to, like, we're going to give you guys an idea of things that you can start doing.
To balance out the
absolutely
the turbulence.
Because you may be a user and you don't you may be a user and you don't even know that you're a user. I mean, we already talked about bums. You could be a bum whether you're a guy or a girl, but some people are users and they don't realize that. This is something that I've always said. A lot of people don't know how to be great friends because they were never taught it. And friendship, going back to what you were saying about the primal thing, friendship is something that needs to be taught.
It's
right?
very interpersonal.
It
love
is.
You have to learn how it is that the other person wants to be loved.
Absolutely.
Whether you call that love languages or whatever, you have to learn what it is that the other person actually needs from you,
Mm-hmm.
require,
But
to
you
maintain their presence.
Yeah, and then but that goes back to knowing self, because if you're not capable of giving that, you have to be honest in self to know I can't give you what you need. You see? And I think that's a way for people to help themselves. If you know that you can't give that person what they need, you'll give them the greatest gift, which is to move away and let them have their space and to find what they need
The
from
option
someone else.
to decide.
Absolutely.
You can't stop somebody from making the wrong decision.
Well, no, and you can't. And so that in itself is a way of being emotionally used. Because if this person knows that if the person knows that they're willing to go to the brink and that you're willing to stop them from going to the brink, they become an emotional vampire. They're calling you all the time before they do something stupid or to get them out of a bad situation.
Right.
So what happens is that you become an enabler in a sense. Okay, you're at the brink. Okay, you should know I'm gonna come and get you. That's a form of being used.
In a sense, yeah, but it's also self-preservation. The other person is just, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do.
That's why they need therapy. So the next one is the person appears disinterested in you after their needs have been met. Oh, let's see what's going on YouTube. See what our chat is like. Now that one in itself, I think a lot of us can relate with that. Yeah? Okay. Yeah. A lot for being used has had to, okay, so let's see, Janessa, as Choice mentioned, a lot of my being used has had a lot to do with my being abused as a child. I had to make a decision to no longer be a victim. Amen. So I'm accountable for allowing it to happen. When I realized my own ex was planning my life, I had to change. Wow. Yeah, that's deep. That's deep.
So I think that the most important part of that was the decision that she made, which is the decision to no longer be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of touched on that earlier, which is, again, a lot of people are willfully
Victims.
accepting whatever it is that they receive. They're just not, they're not fighters, they're not warriors, they're not meant to, at least maybe in their own minds. We can't say what all humans are meant to be or do because we really don't know what the meaning of life is yet, and that's potentially a whole nother episode. But when you are what you are, sometimes giving or being submissive, so forth, is what you're meant to be. Janessa could take her testimony and pass it on to another person who's dealing with the exact same thing. Maybe that's just something that they're content with. Maybe they don't want to fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen. Being a victim, I can speak on that myself personally. I know there's always a choice, my name. There's always a thing of making a choice. And that's what life is really all about, making choices. And how we either deal with the choice that we made, whether right or wrong, good or bad, or if we do our best to ignore that choice. You see, can't run away from things that are real. That's just
at a certain point, no, it definitely all comes crashing down.
And so when it comes to making the decision, it's a lifelong endeavor. Because, like I said, if you're naturally giving, like we was talking about, if you're naturally like an empath or if you're someone who's generous, that's not really going to change too much. You just have to be able to adjust and adapt in regards to the environments that you're in and get more astute to knowing who the users are. And we're going to talk deeply about that going into the second hour, because I think that's how we get to help people. We help people by helping them to see the options that they have and the choices that they can make. And because we can't tell you what to do, but we can tell you the different things that could be in your realm of power, right? So you get your power back. So when we talk about they disinterested in you after your needs have been met, I think a lot of us went through that in high school with sex, right? Right? The boys would get, right? But we're not ever letting it, listen, just know when you tune in with us, the ladies are never off the hook. Because, I know some guys that they got used too in high school. And he's like, man, she won't call me back, man. She won't call me back. And it's just like, brother, just know that's over.
Humans are taking advantage of one another I believe it's their job to do so.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was a dead situation, brother. It's like, she got what she wanted for whatever reason, and you're not getting called anymore. Maybe it was a flight of fancy or just a slight interest, a little interest.
Moments. People enjoy what they enjoy, man. We're not meant to know and see and interact with the same individuals for the rest of our lives. That's why family is so coveted, but also chaotic. They get to be who they are.
Yeah.
But those are the people who we're more predisposed to be around for the duration of our lifespans.
Yeah, it's who we first learned from. Right or wrong, it's who we first learned from. And once you go out into the world, you build who you are. And you get your own form of thinking and seeing things the way you need to see it so that you can acclimate and activate in this world. That's very important. So when someone is with you for what they want and then they dump you, because that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Being dumped. And I'm not just saying on the sexual end of the relationship of intimacy, but being dumped or someone just I've had that happen in the worst way. It pretty much defined how I started to work towards dealing with people, because it was a 3.5-year process of overcoming. Probably still to this day, I got some remnant of it. I mean, I just posted on social media that if anyone has ever wronged me or done me dirty or anything like that, that I absolve them, I forgive them, and I let it go. So forgiveness.
What about the trauma that remains?
Well, that's okay. I'm a big proponent of therapy. Back in my day, when I was a kid in the '80s, therapy wasn't an option. Therapy was not something that black people talked about.
I was saying, it wasn't socially an option for us.
Not at all. I mean, you never talked about the family secrets. You kept stuff to yourself.
Everything's swept under the rug.
Everything is swept under. Doesn't matter how horrendous it was. You just didn't talk about it. You didn't seek therapy. Therapy was something that white people did.
I was gonna say that was instead of swept under the rug, for them it's just taboo.
Yeah, it's highly taboo. You talked about your drunk uncle before you talked about what happened to you that may have caused some form of trauma.
Yeah.
But now it's widely acceptable. We all know that it's something that is needed, even if it's a small thing and it's not something major in your life where you're going through some things and you just need someone to talk to. This program is a form of therapy. We're
100%.
talking to each other and having a forum to listen to people and
Just offering more perspective.
Yes, the viewer paying attention to the topics that we're talking about. That's why we're here. That's what we want to do. That was always our conversation with creating this show. And that's why I said it was a long time coming. When that happens, there are things that you have to recognize. I think a lot of times you hear when people break up, you always hear, "Oh, I want to know from them so I can close the chapter." You've heard
people
that.
looking for closure.
Closure. Most of the time, you're not going to get it.
I think closure is the responsibility of the person who wants it.
I agree. You're not going to get it from that person that dogged you out, because
You'll never be able to ask them for enough, and you'll never be able to receive enough from them. It's 100% up to you, which I believe kind of goes back to the making the decision not to be a victim anymore. But then that's just another scenario where that's what you are. You have to decide that it no longer affects you.
Yeah, and that in itself is tough. It's Kylie. You mentioned victims leaving the situation as a solution. On the same token, do you think that users can make the change to no longer be that way? Is there such a thing as second chances? Ooh.
I believe that. So, okay. There's only one sect of the human race that I believe has absolutely no opportunity for rehabilitation, and those are child abusers, child molesters.
Okay.
I don't trust those people.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, I won't mention who it is, but I have career criminals, lifelong criminals in my family, and some of them were murderers. However, on the same token, these people will give you the shirt off their backs without questioning. And if they didn't have a shirt on their back, they'll help you go find one before they even go and find their own. So no one is above rehabilitation except for those I just mentioned before. I'm not playing with them. Rehabilitation, that comes back down to the entire choice thing and accountability. You know, now why that is important to acknowledge is, do you decide to stick around for how much time it may take for that person to rehabilitate? Do you have the patience? Do you have the youth required? Do you have the energy required, emotionally, physically? You know, so that's 100% up to you. But yeah, there's definitely such thing as second chances. That's just rehabilitation, and you decide whether or not you have the time to stick around for that person to rehabilitate if you believe that they can be what it is that you need them to be.
Yeah, time is the most precious commodity that we have as human beings.
Yeah.
Time. And
it's endless, but we are not.
Well, yeah, time is infinite, we're not. So to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to stick this through, right? But see, being used is something different, because if it's in that person's genetic makeup or their DNA, which is the same, it doesn't mean that they were born users, right? Okay, maybe they were taught being used. It's kind of like the whole adage of, I was cheated on when I was young, and I saw that there was no monogamous relationship, so I don't believe in it. Right. Some people are like that. Okay, that's like another show in itself.
Defeatist kind of attitude.
Yeah. To overcome, do you think that users can make the change to no longer be that way? For a person to not be a user? Absolutely, I believe that.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. They just have to become cognizant of the fact that they are users. And see, this is the issue. This is something that I tell my actors in my acting class all the time. Most people are never told anything about themselves in this world.
That's true. That's very true.
So people put up with each other, right? And so in essence, you go to work, you have to deal with people on a job that you can't stand. Maybe they're using you to do extra work. That's a form of being used. Maybe your boss is using the whole department to overwork you guys to get what do you call it, a deadline.
Deadline.
Right.
They need as much of your time as possible.
Right. And that goes back to the person imposes on you without consideration for your availability or preferences. Right. Maybe you don't want to work overtime, but they impose that. They use you. People who work jobs for 40 years and then they get a pink slip. They lose their 401k. That's a form of being used, because you're not getting anything out of it. So you have to be brave enough, in my opinion, first off, to say, I'm going to stick this through to see if what I'm giving this person is going to help them. There's a step, right? The first step is introduce this person to the user they are. Who wants to be called a user? It's like being called a liar. No one wants to be called a liar, cheat, or user.
No one wants to be called what they are. Unless it's something
like being
magnificent.
Being a black man.
Yeah. Unless it's something that is magnificent to you, but the thing
I've been called an asshole.
Well, again, so it's the thing that you're running from.
Okay,
right?
So yeah, that's the clarification.
No one wants to be called that which they actually are.
I agree. 100%.
We all have our demons. None of us are perfect.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with that. And so but that's in itself the first step. It's kind of like alcoholism. You have to realize that you're an alcoholic. Nothing anybody tells you can make that difference. They can expose you to the fact that you're drinking more than you should be.
Yeah, you're still gonna enjoy Mad Dog.
Right. So that person has to accept the truth in that moment of what you present to them. All right, you use me, you're a user. And then they have to have a contrite heart. Okay, so they have to accept the fact that, you know what, maybe they were never told that they're bad friends or they're bad boyfriends or girlfriends. And then they realize, you know what, I am a user. More than likely, there's a situation that brought them to that point. It's kind of like this. When I got into a fight when I was young, I was like, okay, I don't like how this feels. So I'm going to learn how to do other people the same way they doing me. Right?
That's a natural reaction.
Absolutely. But the only thing that made the difference was that I had a very, shout out to Sensei Darron Jackson. I had a very good instructor who led me away from doing that. And he made it more about, listen, you fight to survive, you don't fight to hurt. And that helped me to go on the journey that I've been on with understanding the martial arts in its fullest. You see? And so the highest level was understanding why I do what I do. Not so much, can I do it? And so, in essence, what I'm saying is this. You have to be brave enough to bring this person to the mirror and say, you are a user. You, and not out of an emotional state, because no one wants to hear anybody that comes from an emotional state. That's something that I've learned in life.
Well, that's another subject.
Yeah, I mean, if you're screaming at somebody, no matter how much truth there is, they're not hearing it because their emotion kick in. It's kind of like, I'm mad at you for being mad at me type of thing. There's very few people that can accept the lashes.
Turns into fire on fire.
Pretty much. Right. So the way you tell someone, yo, you used me, you're a user.
It hurt.
It hurt me. You know, it's like, okay, they don't want to hear that. And so how do you get them to know that about themselves?
Accountability.
How do you get them to be accountable?
Battle.
That's huge.
It's an absolute battle.
That's huge. So that's something that, okay, what Janessa Morgan says, some people were raised on love, typically givers. Some were raised on survival, typically users. There's a tough change to make. That's a tough change to make. Not necessarily impossible, but tough. That's what we're saying.
I agree with that.
That's what we're saying. Do you want to put up with having to help that person?
Do you want to have to put up with having to wait? There is no set, curriculum that says this person will be fixed in 6 months. This person will be fixed in the next couple weeks. For some people, it takes years.
And is that your place? Because if we believe in understanding that everyone has a space in each other's life for a season or something,
right,
it may not be up to you. So for those of you who have gotten past the first part of, okay, I exposed this person to the fact that they're users, but they're not making the change. It might not be in your time with them for them to make that change.
100%. But then, and those are the people who get caught up on this person changed after they left you. Now they're upset and they can't let go. Now, and that's when they decide that they've been used.
Yeah.
Far too late at that point.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to understand when maybe this isn't my job.
Right.
This isn't my place. This isn't my position to play. You may have just been the person who sparked.
Yes.
That fit.
Yeah. They lit the fire. But that's kind of what we're empowering you guys to understand. If you know that now, like those are steps that I take. I'm like, okay, first off, I'm gonna let this person know about themselves. And believe me when I tell you, I've learned that how you feel in the moment is not the best way to say it. Because it's going to come from a personal place. It's going to come from an emotional space. It always does. So you have to take a day or take a step away. Sometimes, if I've ever given you any advice, I would say, you know what, meet outside of your house. Meet outside of your apartment. Meet at a restaurant or something. Because if that person going to act a fool, they're going to embarrass themselves in that space. And that's a plus in your column, in my opinion.
If someone gives you the option to walk away.
Yeah, you can get up and, there's...
We have chameleons out there.
And there's the extreme situations. But with that being said, that at least that first step is taken where you let this person know. Because like I said, most people don't let anybody know about themselves. And primarily because people are already using. So listen, if you meet with someone who you know is toxic or got some serious issues, but you still hanging with them, you got to question yourself why you hanging with that person. Because I can guarantee you, everybody on the outside is wondering the same thing. Why are you hanging with this person?
Some people are enjoying the entertainment.
That too.
They're enjoying the excitement that they don't really have in other places in their life.
But that's using.
Well, from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
People tend to need drama to feel as though they're doing something in this world.
Keep that away from me.
But that's something that some people need. They need drama. That's why we have talk shows.
Yeah.
Somewhat like this. That's why we have daytime television and so forth. But yeah, that's what some people need, man. You know, they need something to feel involved in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if they're not playing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just want to see what the other person is going through. 'Cause damn, wow, that's really fascinating. Glad it's not happening to me, but
No,
you know, keep myself close enough to be entertained.
they can keep it. We are past our 1 hour mark, so we are taking calls, hopefully.
Somewhat. We're either doing calls, and if the calls don't work,
Let's keep talking.
we'll be answering. I'll be
questions.
answering comments the entire time
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you. We appreciate that, Kalia. It's, I agree 100%. Definitely, we appreciate that. So once again, make sure you subscribe, you like, and share everything. Well, it lit up again. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for being a part of what we got going on. We are taking questions at this point, and still a little shaky ground for us, but we're getting through it.
The technology is there. We haven't quite ironed everything out. But
Not yet, but
soon.
we're getting our wheels moving. So, still on this. Okay, the person is only affectionate or intimate with you when it's convenient for them. Okay, for instance, they may be affectionate towards you until they get what they want. That's similar to the other thing. Okay, but that type of thing there is sinister.
That's
sinister.
They want my that's a hoe.
A professional hoe.
They're selling what you're buying.
Mm-hmm.
Only selling what you're buying.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that they have, and a lot of us do this in many different styles of relationships and friendships. But when the other person, when you see what it is that person can give you, you do just about anything to get it, but it's not exactly what they're selling you.
Mm-hmm.
They just give you a taste,
Mm-hmm.
just enough to keep you engaged.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah. For those who are looking to call in, our call-in number is 404-997-2188. Again, that's 404-997-2188. He's putting it in the chat and also on Instagram, so you guys can have it.
YouTube and Instagram.
Yes. All right. True indeed. I mean, like we just said, that person is a hoe. Maybe it's learned behavior. Maybe it's part of their personality. But to do that to somebody, to me, is sinister. Reason being is because there's a lot of energy and time, and that person is very aware of how they're going about doing what they're doing and what the end game and the outcome is going to be. And that's why I consider that being sinister, because you got to have a certain type of heart to want to do that to somebody, you know. You really do. You it's not to be thinking about, okay, I know I'm going to use this person and they're going to be hurt. To embark on that journey, that's a different type of individual. That's not someone who's passively using and don't know that they're using. They're uncognizant.
Well, they're using what they have to get what they want.
Yeah, you said it best. They're hoes.
That's not, that's not necessarily something that's unnatural. It's not necessarily something that is evil, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's someone using the resources that are available to them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us figure it out, some of us don't. It's the
Right,
difference
but
between
if-
a 9-to-5 worker and a business owner.
But if this is the thing that I have the issue with. If the person knows the end result of what it's going to do to that person. So in essence, what I'm saying is this. I meet you, I know that you have access to something that I want, right? Because it happens in corporate America all the time, right?
It happens in United Relations.
Right, of course. But the only difference is that I know if I do what I'm planning on doing, that the end result is you'll end up losing your job, right? So in essence, I'm like, okay, I'm using you to get into the business, right? I call you up and I say, hey, man, I know you got that connect. And, you're like, oh, yeah, I'll get you in. And you just being a great friend. But you don't know that my end result, there will be blood. When Daniel Day-Lewis's character knows what he's doing to people when he's out there doing this hard sell. He was drinking up that milkshake, right? Or kind of like Gecko in the Wall Street. He knows what's going to happen to you by bringing this to your attention, and I know the end result. I'm sorry, that to me is sinister.
Is that not a proponent of natural selection?
It is, but that doesn't mean it's not horrible. It's not sinister. I mean, what people do in Wall Street when they go in and they buy out a business and they fire everybody, people could say, "Oh, that's great business." No, that's horrible. People lost their jobs, and this man goes and kills his whole family because he ain't got no means of taking care of them.
Well, that's on him. He shouldn't have killed his family.
True, agreed.
That was his choice.
Agreed, but we're not taking the fact away from that person that did it.
That was his reaction
to this situation.
But the key word is his.
True, but that doesn't make that other person isn't sinister. What do you guys think in the chat? What do you think? Do you think that that's a sinister thing? That's a horrible thing if you're using something on your person or yourself in regards to your situation, and you know what the end outcome more than likely will be? Not so much for a fact. Like, say, for instance, not putting you in a bad situation where if you know that you have to leave somebody and that person is threatening you with stupid stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying here's a situation where this person is okay. They good. They got everything going on. And you say, okay, man, they got this. I don't want that. It's what's the old Shakespearean play?
Othello?
Othello.
Yeah.
Othello.
I know a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat
Othello.
close.
It's Othello. He knows. Iago knows what he's doing. He
100%.
wants to break him up. He knows that the man loves that woman so much. He was using them for his own entertainment, for his own jealousy, right? And so, with that being said, we judge him because we know that here's a man who truly loved his woman, but you did all of this to get this end result. For what? Mm-hmm. That's a sinister individual. That's somebody that, whether they get joy and pleasure, we talk about that drama. That's that drama that people bring into people's lives.
Does that throw off the natural order?
It's necessary. That's evil as hell. Yes, it is.
But does it throw off the natural order of things?
It always does, but that's what makes things. The natural order is a thing that's based on balance. Right. It'll never be equal. It's always going to be one higher than the other. That's like the scales of justice.
But balance is equal.
It is, as long as it's on a platform. So now you have balance that is unequal on a balanced plane, right? So when it's just weighted even, it's always going to be off just by a bit. That's what's going on with the world right now. And that's why there's so many people with mental disability or depression is so high, because they're looking at Instagram or Facebook or Twitter and seeing what everybody else got, and they feel like they're not getting it. So their life is not fair and their life is off. So that's what I mean by that natural order things, because the natural order things say, look, whatever you got, you got. That's just the way it works. Yeah. But we also live in an environment where people are making decisions. I want to be a woman. I can be a woman. If she's a man, he wants to be a woman. He can be a woman. A woman want to be a man.
That's balance.
To them, but is it natural? So that's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that thing will always be.
The decision-making process is natural.
That I agree with you on, for sure.
The decision-making process is natural. That's about all that I'll agree with.
That works. That works. That's the hard part.
I may have a controversial
go for it.
Perspective on that, or position on that, which is that there is no absolute vetting process. You'll never know 100% what you're getting with someone. One of the things that's almost globally talked about, or accepted rather, is that everyone gives a representative of themselves when they're interacting with others. So the closest that we've gotten to fully understanding other people is social media, because we kind of get a bird's eye view into what everyone is thinking, what everyone is doing at all times. So there is no absolute way to figure out how genuine someone is or isn't. You're almost always going to get a representative, because although it seems in today's world that there is no shame, We all have some amount of shame that keeps us from being 100% ourselves 100% of the time. So,
which is what, going back to what you said about being primal, right?
yeah. So you can, I believe that there's two lanes traveled concerning this, which is I'll live my life as careful as possible, almost to the extent of being afraid, which means you may miss out on the person it is that you're looking for. You may miss out on friendships or business opportunities and so forth because of how what is the word? Preventative you're attempting to be. And then there are those who take chances, those who are willing to fall down, those who are willing to be hurt, those who are willing to experience. So you get to decide. That's something that no one here or anyone else could really guide you on. It's 100% based on how much you're willing to get back up.
Yeah. That's a younger man's mindset and perspective, a younger black man's perspective. Let me give you mine. It's chess, not checkers. Listen, when you've lived as long as I have, you start to understand. First off, like I said, you have to be cognizant of yourself. It's a mirror reflection, constantly looking at yourself and saying, where did I screw up in this? And I think that's where it always starts first, because that's the hardest part. We talked about the accountability, holding yourself accountable in any situation. And that's a lifelong endeavor. That's a process. Like, you'll leave this planet, and people will be like, well, the first thing that she did was at least she looked at herself. I know that about herself. Because, yeah, all right, it doesn't even become about right or wrong anymore. It's all about, okay, let me ask you a question. Did you realize that you were being used? And if you didn't, what's causing you to not recognize yourself being used? And a lot of that, of course, comes from childhood trauma or how you were raised. But there's a point where that little you has to no longer be little anymore and grow up and say, okay, let me become accountable in regards to what it is I need to do in life, which is to be able to function. Because a lot of people aren't really fully functional. A lot of people, are toxic and they have issues, and they bring that drama and toxicity into other people's lives. But the brave person says, okay, I don't like how this feels, right? Because if you're an empath, right? Like, I'm an empath. I don't like how it feels when I learn the truth about what that situation was. It's like this big dramatic, screaming, crying moment where you go, oh my God, I just realized that I was used. And you purge yourself and you just go through these emotional, tearful moments. Even men do. Don't get it twisted. There's a lot of you guys out there be quick to be like, oh, I don't cry. Well,
we hurt.
And we all hurt in
Exact
different
same.
ways. And some of us, the tear ducts don't work, but we do hurt. And it is a very strong depressive moment that we go through when we realize we were used or we used up. So I say you start, and it's good that we're going into the final chapter of our show, because now we can start giving people tips and things that they could probably use to help. You start by saying, all right, now this is very pragmatic and this is very to the point, okay? It's a simple technique, but in all relationships, first off, I'm going to start judging based on how people who I've appreciated, right, like how they treated me, I'm going to start judging those relationships on that. I'm going to judge on, okay, I feel like this person, I want them in my life, I enjoy, but they don't treat me the way this person does. So person A, I have a great relationship with. We've known each other for 15 years, maybe one argument, and that was over something trivial.
It's recording. Keep going.
Right? So we say, I want my relationships to be similar to person A. Now, most people would say, well, that's stupid because everybody's different, blah, 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 blah. No, not necessarily. Because most people leave their relationships in their family and they go out and deal with people according to how they had different relationships with people in their family. A lot of young black men, or men in general, look for, if they had a great relationship with their granddad, they look for that in other men. If they had a great relationship with their mom or with their auntie, they look for that in other people. So we're already doing that. The only difference is that we're expecting people to be good friends, or we're expecting them to be respectful of how we feel. And that's unfair to the person and to yourself. So you say to yourself, okay, let me start by saying, I'm going to give you this. And if you give that back to me, or even just a thought, because listen, we all have different types of friends. We have some friends who have money and some people who are destitute don't have money. That doesn't mean that they can't be good friends, right? So you say to yourself, I'm going to give you this. And if I don't see anything come back from that seed that I planted, I know to put you here in this place in my life, because you're not ready for all of the bone marrow. You're not ready for all of the gel. You just get this part, okay? And that's the thing that people have to understand. There's a difference between friends and acquaintances. Huge difference. And that's where I started. I had started saying, okay, this person, you know, if you know anything about me, people say I love you, and I say I love you more, because I do love everyone more. It's just that some people can't have that other love, because I've seen that they're not capable of giving me what I give them. And that you'll see that even in relationships, where the person that's used to giving, they're so used to it, they don't realize until after the relationship that they allow themselves to be used. So the first step, other than just telling that person you use me, which is too late at that point, but I'm giving you steps on how not to get used. I'm giving you this. Let me see what you give back. That way, you've established a means of how to interact with that person. And if you see it drop off, right, then you know they weren't really that great of a friend in the first place. Harsh, but true. And then you start, because see, listen, and I've had friends tell me this, well, that's my girlfriend, I treat her different. And it's like, no, relationships are all the same. That's what people don't understand. 90% of the problems you'll have in life are from your relationships. Your day-to-day human activity and interaction with people. 90% of your problem, your pain, your hurt, your drama, your issues are going to be from people. Even if it's someone that cut you off in traffic. They pissed you off for that 5 or 20 minutes, or if it became something even bigger, now you're at the gas station going back and forth with each other because they cut you off at a previous light. And so once you start to realize, okay, I have to figure out me in order to be able to deal with other people.
You know, we say in martial arts that every interaction is a relationship of some sort. Absolutely.
And that to me is the step. And I've been taking that step. It's been very beneficial. Now, do people still slip through? Absolutely. Absolutely, they slip through. And it takes a lot to not hold yourself to that place of, I messed up. But if you start to realize that you've come so far, it's not a problem. You see, you say to yourself, okay, I messed up, but next time I'll do better. Because that's part of being a human being. As human beings, we have the right to make mistakes. Animals don't. If a lion fall and break his leg, he's done for. He ain't gonna have a helicopter come and get him. Right. It ain't happening. As human beings, we got therapy. We got people who care about us. There's always someone who does. Because listen, you can be close with friends, right, and have a real tight, close-knit friendship with someone, and still reach out for other friends. That's part of who we are. That's part of interactivity. You understand? Like it's all about relation. And so that's why God has us here on this planet, to relate with each other in some capacity. The problem is some people are sinister, some people are not well kept in their upbringing, or they don't know how to treat a friend. And I've had people say, can maybe I could be the one to teach them. Well, maybe it's not your job. Maybe
not always your place.
Right. Yeah, and you're gonna open yourself up to a world of hurt. You see? Do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think you've brought that full circle.
We appreciate you. Thanks for calling in. You got it. So, with that being said, man, sorry. There's that mistake. With that being said, to reiterate what I was saying, this is basically knowing that the steps that have to be taken because they talk about here in this article the impact of being used. All right, we're winding down now. We're close to finishing up on the show. We have 30 minutes left. Being used can take a toll on your mental health as well as your relationships. Okay, I believe that that's the number one way that you get affected. Your mental health.
Mental health.
Yeah, because you start thinking back over all the experiences, and those things come pouring in. One of the things that I give advice to people about is on a breakup, I'm like, go listen to all the slow songs of the R&B 80s, 90s, and cry it out. You know, start listening to all them old songs.
That did used to be a thing. That was once a solution.
Yeah, because somebody probably wrote your situation.
Yeah, correct.
You see, and music, the tones of music help us, and it's the soundtrack to our lives. Just don't listen to the song that was sexy at the time of dating that person.
Right. Well, I think that it's more so than the emotional, or the mental health issue that you deal with. I think that it goes deeper into a spiritual thing. These things collectively begin to weigh down on you, physically, mentally, emotionally. All of these things begin to weigh down on you, and you begin to lose a bit of yourself.
I just had to do that one more time.
You're
Sorry.
You begin to lose a bit of yourself based on how much you've given, you know. And like you were saying, people begin to blame themselves. You know, you get angry at the situation that you ended up in. You get angry at things not going exactly the way that you envisioned them in.
Which is what leads to depression, because
it weighs heavy on your spirit.
Yeah, depression is unmet expectation. So a lot of times when people say I'm depressed, and I'm like, what is it that you feel should be happening in your life at this moment? And we're going to have a show about that, and we'll have more than likely a guest on the show to talk about how to combat depression, because it is a serious issue in the Black community. And a lot of people don't even know that they're depressed. And it's something like this being used can lead to that. That is a vine that branches off. The impact on mental health is serious to me, and I think that's probably why they listed this first, because you may not, some people are quick to be like, when you fall down, you scrape your knee, you brush it off, you get up, and you keep going.
Right.
And sometimes you don't need to do that. Sometimes
they ignore the traumatic portion of it.
Yeah. All the things that are connected with that. The fact that no one wants to be used. I don't think you'll meet anybody like, yeah, I like being used, unless it's something totally different.
It's something for everybody out there.
But in the sense of being used to where it's detrimental to your well-being as far as your mental health, that's horrible. It also has a way of impacting your future relationships and your current relationships. So a lot of times we're not taking heed to people in our lives who can see and know otherwise, right? So you may have family members or friends who be like, yo, that guy's no good, or that girl ain't no good, she's poison, right? And then what happens is it breaks up and you realize that you were being used. And so now you're mad at everybody for telling you something that you should have known. Or you're angry at everyone for not telling you, because like I'm at the point in life where I because I've had so many bad experiences of telling people about somebody, that I stopped doing it, especially about a man and his woman. Like, you don't do that. Like,
absolutely
not. I think we can agree about that. But I think sometimes the relationships are affected because we feel that the people should have done more. Like, you should have done more. You should slap me upside my head. And it's like, no, it wouldn't have made a difference.
You can never fight someone on their own choices.
No, you can't. Or that they didn't do enough. And so now, and then also the future relationships are affected, because what happens is that now I'm funny about trust, but you don't have trust, or you feel like you can't depend on people anymore because people have used you. Right? Anybody got anything to say about that? No? We're still waiting for some call-ins before the last hour is done.
We got about another 20 minutes or so.
Got 20 minutes to call in. Okay.
before we go running away.
And mind you, let me help you understand something. If you're in a relationship and you're being used, that relationship is not healthy. It doesn't matter if it's a family relationship, if it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, best friend, or close friends. If someone is using you, you deserve better. And you have to start to see the signs on what it is to be used. And we've talked about some of those signs. Okay? But the most important thing is realizing that you have to stand up for yourself and you have to hold yourself accountable for those things that happen in regards to being used. You can't just say, oh, I was used and I didn't know it. Unless, there's some good flim-flammers out there.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, those are what they used to be grifters. These people.
Grifters, flim-flam.
They're another version of a pimp who is, they specialize in people's emotions. They specialize in the human condition and how we'll react to just about any social scenario. And they're really good at it.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing in olden days Chicago and was it Chicago, Mississippi? You know, when the pimp game originally kind of started up. Mm-hmm. These people were absolute masters of their craft. I'll say not the craft, but their craft for sure.
Mm-hmm. So be careful of those types of people. Let's see what it says about that.
Identifying that kind of person.
Yeah, that goes right
they
into
run. They used to call it. They run the long game.
Yeah, the long game. Yeah, the long game. Yeah. And so, with that being said, there's those strategies to avoid being used. Set boundaries. That's kind of what I was telling Janessa, right?
Yes,
in
sir.
regards to making sure that you the chess not checkers is like it's one step and then the other person step and you step and then that way you know that's how you create boundaries. And once I started doing that, I stopped being used up, because there's always some level of being used, but I'm not being used up. And I think that's when you start to get to that mental disruption where you're so hurt and you're so emotionally drained and physically drained and mentally drained to now you're mentally disturbed by what just happened in that situation. So setting those boundaries, and that's the boundaries is kind of like any animal that's been caught in a trap will work really hard to never be caught in a trap.
You'll almost never get them again. If you do, again, natural selection is a play at that point. They were meant to deal with that. But more importantly, I believe that, and it comes from the quote comes from a movie. I forget which movie it was. I believe it was Heat, maybe. But you never attach yourself to anything that you can't walk away from it in 30 seconds or less, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that's somewhat of a traumatic policy, but at the same time,
it protects
it's preventative.
And it's preventative. Yeah.
Some people do need to go to the extreme because they're already living the other extreme, which is
that's
being
part
used up.
But that's part of knowing self. You see, because if you are an extremist, like I'm an extremist, you're an extremist, we're extremists, right? And it's 120. It's not just 100,
yeah.
Right? So
without any question.
Yeah. And so with that being said, a lot of people appreciate that.
Of course they do.
But they don't know how
do
to
they
deal
appreciate
with
it or do they accept it?
Well, they both. They appreciate it and accept it. Depends on the person, though. It's like somebody, so I can appreciate it. That don't mean I care about it. You see what I'm saying? Right. That's what I meant by the appreciation. Not that, they'll show
actually
it.
showing
no.
they're not grateful.
Oh, no. Not at all. No.
For what it is.
Yeah, no. They be like, well, that's nice. I didn't ask for all of that.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah. You have to be mindful if you're an extremist. And we'll definitely have a show about that.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to be mindful if you're an extremist and if you're one of those people, because it's kind of like this. People notice the most prolific person that walks through the door.
Always.
And they always want to know, how did you become so prolific?
What made me look at you? Well, what made me not look away from you?
Yeah, because everybody wants attention. It goes back to even in elementary school. Now all the kids get stars and, everyone gets 100.
Somebody gets a trophy.
Everybody gets a trophy. But back in the day, it was an enigma to some kids on how this person was able to excel. And so people can appreciate something great. That doesn't mean that they appreciate it, right? And so the strategies to avoid being used is, like I said, set boundaries, okay? It's chess, not checkers. It's like, I'm going to do this. Let's see what this person does. And yes, it is something that's more meticulous than just being willy-nilly and open to everybody and, hey, come on in. But it's imperative if you are a person that's an extremist, if you are a person who goes 120. Is it imperative for people who don't go 120? Maybe they have more of a gauge. Some people have a gauge. They were taught it as children, and in their family, that's how it is. Work on your self-esteem. And I go back to what I had said about, like the Bible says, you have to be a good steward of what's given to you. You have to be a little bit more upstanding about yourself and realize that you are worth something. You are special. You are enough. And that's important because we live in a society and an environment where social media teaches us that we don't have enough, we're not enough, we're insufficient. And that's detrimental to your self-esteem. So work on that. That's important. And then seek guidance. Again, that's part of the reason why we're talking about this on the show. Just giving people some things to think about, perspectives.
100% perspective. It's not necessarily professional advice or collegiate advice, so to speak, but I'm just here to open up the conversation. Not enough of us are willing to have the conversation, or not enough of us even have someone to go to start the conversation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is a safe space.
It's a safe space. You can say what you want, okay, as long as it's respectful to us and to the audience. Those are some of the strategies. Those are some of the things that you can keep in mind when you're developing new relationships. And remember, like I said, the relationship doesn't just have to be boyfriend, girlfriend, or dating, or best friends, or close friends, or family. The relationship is all relationships, because you can be used in any form of relationship. Any form of relationship. There's a lot of people that suffer at their jobs because their bosses or the person that they're working with is using them.
They consider you to be more than dependable. They don't even consider you to be an asset. They consider you 100% to be a resource. And being a resource is not being necessarily appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Communication is key. Communication. If you feel like someone is using you, start the dialogue, start a conversation, and say, hey, listen, I felt used in this situation. That will tell you from their response whether this person is a professional user or just someone that didn't realize that they were doing what they were doing. Because sometimes people don't know. Like I said, most people will never say anything to anybody. They won't say anything. And that person doesn't even know that what they did made you feel that way.
Well, that's because most people are living where they're accepted. Mm. Living where they're accepted and living what they're accepted to continue to do, continue to be.
Mm-hmm. But if you have any questions or any comments or any topics that you want us to talk about,
100%.
Yes, please drop it underneath the messages here in YouTube and or Instagram.
Or contact us directly.
Contact us directly to any one of our I guess we got it listed.
Either of the social media handles. Mm-hmm. You can text the podcast call-in number, which is 404-997-2188. We receive text messages. Please do not send lewd pictures.
You can send me them. I don't care.
Well, you know. But yeah, definitely reach out. Absolutely reach out, man. We're looking for maximum engagement, and also no shame in my game. Please go ahead and start referring some sponsors, referring partnerships with any, what do they call them? They call them virtual brands now.
Big name.
We'll take just about anything. We got some morals and standards too, but yeah, I think that about wraps it up.
The host, our social media, Instagram, Darkon2000, DARKAN 2000. Twitter, Darkon, ENT, and Instagram for @thedosage, @THE_DOSAGE. I'm pretty sure you're gonna go back to Twitter, or you're not sure?
Yeah, I'm going to. It's a hellacious place, so I must involve myself in some chaos.
Unnecessary evil.
Yes, sir.